is NewsNation Now.
And a good Thursday morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us here on NewsNation Now and the NewsNation Facebook page. I am Aaron Nolan. If you don't know about NewsNation, I encourage you to go to our website, newsnationnow.com. And first off, search WGN America and find out exactly where you can watch us. We are a national newscast that airs at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock Central, 7 days a week. And we are doing things a little bit differently than the other guys. We are unbiased, allowing you to choose exactly how you feel about the news. With that in mind, let's jump into Washington, D.C. and what's going on the political landscape in the United States, something that is ever changing each and every week. That's why weekly we bring in Kellie Meyer live from Washington, D.C. Kellie, we are racing to the holidays, but I have a feeling the business in Washington is not slowing down at all.
No, not at all. It has been very busy here. They've even extended their stay a little bit longer. We had a government funding deadline set for tomorrow, but they now, at least the House so far, voted to extend that until next Friday to buy them some more time to get a deal together. Really trying to tie up this end of year legislation and deals and put a bow on it in time for the holidays, but they are definitely struggling with some of these deals, specifically with COVID relief. I know we talk about it every week, and they are trying to get a deal, but really they need to get this done within the next 24 to 48 hours. They are definitely running out of time to reach an agreement on this.
Kellie, we talk about this each week because a lot of small businesses, a lot of individuals need some relief based on what COVID and the pandemic has done to their lives. Any change from last week when we didn't know if it was going to get done? I do believe in the last 7 days that we have found out the latest offer on the table would not include stimulus checks directly to people, but maybe some relief to small businesses.
Well, there's a lot of changes since we last talked, and a lot of changes in the last 24 hours. Really, every second there's something changing with this. There's someone talking about the next deal, how they can make something happen. So where we're at right now basically is still at this sticking point between state and local government funding and business liability protections. Many Republicans want to get those business liability protections in, and many Democrats want to get the state and local government funding. But then on top of that, you do see that bipartisan working group. They're calling them the 908 Coalition because they have the $908 billion package proposal. That's a group of Republicans and Democrats working together to try to find a solution. They, at this moment, are still trying to hash out a deal. In the meantime, we had the White House and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin mention this $916 billion proposal, which sounds good because it's bigger than the 908 Coalition had proposed. But in that, you have a $600 one-time stimulus direct check, but they take away the $300 a week unemployment benefits. So that was something that Democratic leadership said, nope, we're not taking it.
All right, Marco Rubio is someone you have spoken with this week. What exactly where is he on the COVID relief right now?
What's interesting with Marco Rubio, he is the creator of the Paycheck Protection Program, one of the founding creators in that plan. And he wants to see a little bit more money than the bipartisan coalition came up with for the Paycheck Protection Program. That is for money for small businesses. He says some of the money they're using is money that's sitting there. It hasn't been used, so they would just repurpose it. So it sounds like it's more money, but it really has already been authorized. He said, just put it in there. It won't add up to much more. So he's fighting for that. He's not part of this bipartisan coalition, but he also feels hopeful, which is something that is good to hear in this final week of trying to get a COVID deal. He says he's feeling cautiously optimistic. That's a phrase you hear a lot up here, but it is hopeful that he's hearing that. He's one of the top Republicans. He's involved in these negotiations, especially on PPP. So for him to say that, it seems as though they're saying, along with Democratic leadership, that they are going to get something done. My sources tell me they feel hopeful as well, but it's really getting down to the wire here.
All right, so from the stimulus to the vaccine, something that really everybody has been talking about, kind of a big meeting happening today there in Washington. Tell us about the possibilities of the emergency use vaccine being authorized.
Huge. I mean, if there's one thing I could tell people to watch for today, it would likely be this, because this really is the key to whether or not the US will see a distribution of the vaccine. We've been watching this week as the UK got that first jab in the arm of the vaccine, and now we're waiting to hear if people in the US will get that. And when I talked to Secretary Azar, Health and Human Services Secretary, he said that as soon as they get this okay, they can get this distribution done within 24 hours. They'll start getting these vaccines out to people in need, the elderly, essential workers, frontline workers. So we're watching this meeting right now. You can watch it live as well. It's from 9 to 6 p.m. Eastern. We're looking for a vote from the FDA later in the day, and they will decide and give that final say if they can distribute this vaccine.
You mentioned watching it live. Want to let everyone out there know that you can go to newsnationnow.com right now and watch it live on our website as we continue to cover this. What is the likelihood of this being voted on today, and we have a thought process of where the United States is on the vaccination process? I mean, is this kind of the first step to all of us getting vaccinated in the United States?
Oh, absolutely. And, I think we will hear from them today. At least that's what we're expecting. I think we all know, and they know, we're on this tight timeline. We can't get this out soon enough. And when I talked to Azar, he seemed to feel as though that this was going to be happening before the holidays, that they were going to start the distribution and get this out to people who need it, and then continue on that process towards getting the whole general public vaccinated, likely closer to the spring. And I talked with Senator Rubio about this, because I know there was some news about the White House maybe potentially rejecting some of the doses from Pfizer. And he said, they put their eggs in different baskets. They put their eggs in different companies' baskets, because they weren't sure which vaccine was going to work. So he says there's going to be multiple vaccine companies coming their way, multiple vaccines. And he feels as though at the end of the day, the U.S. is going to be the leader in vaccine distribution.
And you spoke with Alex Azar. Is the thought process that if this passes tonight, that the vaccines will start relatively quickly?
Absolutely. He said within 24 hours, they will start rolling this out. So that's what they are expecting. They didn't exactly say who would get it first, but he said and indicated that it would likely be the elderly, essential workers, frontline workers, healthcare workers, that kind of thing. In terms of, people like you and me, people watching, that might come later. They're going to focus on those guys first. But for us, it could be, maybe the spring or so, but I don't want to speculate too much.
Sure.
But we'll see how this rollout begins and how it goes.
In that conversation with Secretary Azar, did he at all, and look, I understand how politicians usually work. They are wrong, right, left, right, they are down the line, but there is an emotion tied to this pandemic. Did the Secretary at all give you any indication of relief that we may be, with the vaccine, about to see a finish line to 2020, to that March 13th date when a pandemic was declared, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel?
He did. He seemed very optimistic. He seemed very hopeful about this, and also addressing those concerns about, the speed this was created in, and having, people be wary of maybe taking it. And he said, if you get the FDA to say, okay, if they approve it, then it's okay to go. He says the speed didn't compromise the safety of the vaccine, which I think is important to note, because it is, a scary thing, and it's something we all haven't dealt with before. But he wanted to make sure he, made that point that it is safe. And if the FDA approves it and it's good to go out, they will start distributing it, and then they could get closer and closer to the end of this pandemic.
Kellie Meyer joins us here now on newsnationnow.com and the News Nation Facebook page. Kellie, we've talked about COVID relief. We've talked about COVID vaccine. Now we need to talk about the election and how November 3rd is not close to being finished yet. Let us know where we are on the election right now and what President-elect Joe Biden is doing as he waits for January 20th, which of course is Inauguration Day.
Well, it's a bit of a divide up here on Capitol Hill, with half the people recognizing the result of the election and the other half saying they're waiting for a very important day when the Electoral College meets and votes on the president-elect or the president and vice president to be. And that day is coming up in just a few days. That's coming up on Monday when they will vote and finalize. And that's a day that many members of Congress have said they will accept the results of the election. They said they wanted to give time for the process to play out, to hear of any concerns that might have popped up or any lawsuits that had to be finished. And you're seeing the Supreme Court case come up with the president, another one. He's talking with the state attorney generals from various states today at the White House for lunch. And there's about 17 Republican attorney generals who are signing on to this lawsuit to overturn the results of the election. They're moving quickly on this. The Supreme Court is saying, get what you need to get to us and we'll make a decision. Someone from the SCOTUS blog here in DC says that the case is a hopeless one. He doesn't see this overturning the results of the election, but they are trying to speed this through because really after Monday, it pretty much will be over. And that's when Republicans on the Hill have said they will accept whatever the Electoral College decides.
Kellie Meyer reporting for us out of Washington, D.C. Kellie, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time as you do each and every Thursday right here on News Nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that is a wrap on what is happening in Washington this week. But again, you can watch much more happening right now live on NewsNationNow.com.